Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kevin Barefoot. I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Development here at Teamworks, and I appreciate you joining us. We have an important set of topics that we're going to discuss today, all related to the thing that we're thinking about, which is the future of our industry and how we navigate this path forward together. If you're watching this, we do have a little bit more definition now than we did just a few weeks and months ago. There's been preliminary approval of the House settlement. And so now many administrators are moving from a phase of uncertainty and maybe even a little bit of anxiety now into a phase of planning and thinking about how you're going to execute in this new world. Uncertainty's been replaced by intense focus on solutions. And many of you are trying to figure out not just how to survive, but how to consistently compete and win in a future state where student athletes are sharing in revenue, and maybe that means that your budget is going to evolve, the structure of your athletic department is going to change. And so as we've been talking to administrators around the country, some of the things that we've been hearing are that you're trying to figure out how to make and manage allocation decisions. How do you empower coaches to be collaborative and involved in the process, but also aligned with your department? What's the actual payment mechanism that you will use to transfer funds to student athletes? And many athletic directors are actually looking at professional organizations to see how they're managing large pools of money, as well as making roster construction and personnel decisions. My message to you is simple. Together, we can create clarity. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to lay out a forward-looking vision of how you can gain and maintain a competitive advantage in this new world. We're going to talk about Zelus, the recent acquisition that we announced in the sports data analytics space. We're going to talk about Teamworks GM, a new product announcement we made in September, as well as Teamworks Wallet. I'm going to provide details about how each of these tools works individually, but also how they fit together in order to create stability, confidence, and success for your program. Together, we can create clarity, and Teamworks has a roadmap, so let's dive in. All right, let's get started by talking about some of the macro trends that we are seeing in the industry. These are things that the objective observer can look at college athletics and tell pretty quickly. And the first thing is that there is an increased amount of money that is flowing to student athletes. And you can see this specifically in NIL. There are more brands and businesses that are participating today than ever before. Quarter over quarter, the volume of transactions and dollars has increased since NIL began. Just from this year to last year, the average deal value in college athletics has increased 113%. So there's much more money flowing to student athletes today, and that will continue in the future. Related to that, athlete earnings are becoming significantly more complex. There are more student athletes that are going to be taking part in revenue share than are taking part in NIL today. Athletic departments are clearly in need of a better and more reliable player valuation tool. That is becoming increasingly important. As more dollars are flowing into the ecosystem, the stakes are higher on all of the personnel decisions that are being made. So in response to those macro trends, schools are telling us they need some very specific things. Number one, they need a scalable and secure mechanism to pay student athletes. How are we going to move dollars from point A to point B? Number two, you need a comprehensive solution to manage total athlete earnings. And number three, you need a data-driven athlete valuation tool. In response to those trends, we have launched Teamworks Wallet in the spring of 2024. We recently announced Teamworks General Manager. And also in September, we announced the acquisition of Zelus, which is one of the world's leading sports data analytics firms. Let's start by talking about a scalable and secure mechanism to pay student athletes, and that is Teamworks Wallet. Teamworks Wallet is the first digital banking solution built specifically for college athletics and designed with college athletes in mind. Today, there are numerous payment sources for student athletes, and if I kind of broadly bucket where those sources are coming from, you have NIL dollars and also school level payments. And in the NIL side, obviously collectives account for over 85% of all NIL transactions today. So they're a driving force. But there's also brands and businesses that are involved in engaging in NIL opportunities with student athletes. If I'm a collective and I want to pay a student athlete for an NIL deal, I'm either cutting a check or maybe an ACH transfer. I may be using a third-party technology that relies on Stripe for payment. And the problem with those setups is that it can take days to get the payment to the student athletes. In addition, if you are using a tool that relies on Stripe, there are often processing or transaction fees associated with that deal. On the school side, obviously today you're making per diem payments to student athletes, you're making educator-related benefits payments to athletes, you're also making scholarship payments, and in the future, revenue share payments. Per diem can still take the form of cash for many athletic departments. And so the problem that exists is that student athletes are having to go and manage the compensation that they are receiving in 4, 5, or 6 different places. It is cumbersome and it is inefficient. Teamwork's Wallet creates one destination for all payments. It's a single account for student athletes to receive, store, and spend their money. And one of the most important things to note about Teamwork's Wallet is that all payments that happen within this ecosystem are instantaneous and completely fee-free. As a student athlete, once I receive my funds, I can do whatever I want with it. I can buy goods and services online using Google Pay. I can add my Teamworks Wallet account to my Apple Wallet. I can make in-person purchases using my Teamworks Visa debit card or transfer the money out to other third-party accounts. In the case of a payment coming from a collective to a student athlete, the collective can set up a free Teamworks Wallet account, as can the student athlete. And if the collective wants to make a $1,000 NIL payment to the athlete, that payment happens immediately. The student athlete can literally spend the money seconds later, and the student athlete will receive all 1,000 of those dollars. And we're tackling NIL first because that is the lowest hanging fruit, but immediately later this year, shifting our focus to operational payments like per diem. Teamworks Wallet simplifies money management for student athletes and allows them to have complete control. Let's dig a little bit deeper on some of the benefits that student athletes will experience with a Teamworks Wallet account. First, one of the questions that we get often is around the security related to Teamworks Wallet. We work with several partner banks through our fintech provider, including banks like Wells Fargo and Comerica. So when it comes to domestic and international banking standards and regulations, those banks are the backstop. We're talking FDIC insured accounts that are secure and reliable. We've also customized this product specifically for college athletics. Student athletes can set up a secondary tax reserve account, and they can stipulate that a certain percentage of their NIL earnings funnel into that account. They can still access it and spend it whenever they would like, but it helps them prepare to achieve 15 or 20% savings into that tax reserve account so they are prepared for the upcoming tax season. I mentioned earlier that there's no processing or transaction fees with Teamworks Wallet, but to be clear, there's no yearly or monthly fees either. There are no account minimums. It is completely free for student athletes and collectives to set up and use. A third account type that we offer is actually a high yield savings account, allowing student athletes to responsibly grow their money. And then finally, we've integrated Teamworks Wallet into the operating system for sports. Not only are there things like roster integrations on the administrative side, but as a student athlete, I go to the App Store, I download the Teamworks Wallet app, and I sign in with the same username and password that I use for all my other Teamworks products. It takes about 3 minutes to apply, typically under 2 minutes to get approved, and my account is set up and functioning. Now, we officially launched Teamworks Wallet back in September with the Classic City Collective, which is the University of Georgia's official collective. And it was a resounding success. The quote from the executive director, Matt Hibbs, kind of sums things up in terms of what it meant for them operationally and what it meant for the student athletes. But one of the cool things that we observed was that 95% of the student athletes, upon setting up their Teamworks Wallet account, immediately added it to their Apple Wallet. It told us that we were meeting them where they are and helping them manage their funds in a way that was comfortable and familiar for them. Wallet is the next frontier of how schools are addressing some of the new and complex challenges that are coming along with rev share and certainly that exist today with NIL. And it is also integrated into the tech that you all already use and trust. The next topic we want to talk about is a comprehensive solution to manage total athlete earnings. And just a few weeks ago, we announced the launch of Teamworks GM. Teamworks General Manager empowers the right people with the right access to drive department and team level decisions. So at the highest level, administrators are going to have to make decisions about how the entire pool is allocated initially. Maybe you're taking a Title IX approach where the dollars will be allocated more evenly between male and female sports, or maybe you're taking a more market-driven approach. But once the allocations have been allotted to the team, coaches and their staff, GMs, directors of player personnel will be able to log in and see their team data and no one else's. They'll be able to decide how they want to allocate funds to position groups or individual athletes. In addition, coaches will be able to do scenario planning and budgeting for future years. Because Teamworks General Manager is integrated with other Teamworks products, we know who's graduating after this season. So coaches can actually roll over this year's budget to next year to see what is already allocated and what is available, so they can begin doing some of that scenario planning for future years. Wallet is also integrated directly into Teamworks GM. So the two most important functions that you're going to be tasked with in the revenue share era are combined. How do we make and manage the revenue share decisions? And how do we actually trigger the payments securely to student athletes? Now, when it comes to total athlete earnings, it's our opinion that the ability for a school to quickly calculate as well as effectively communicate total athlete earnings is going to be increasingly important. And this is going to be challenging if you're a school that has fragmented point solutions. If you're using one tool for per diem and another tool for NIL management, maybe your collective is using another technology, it's going to be very difficult to consolidate all that information together. But that's what leaders need, a consolidated view. And Teamworks provides that. Imagine a world where collectives are using Influencer as their back office to propose deals to student athletes, to communicate, to document contracts and pay athletes for NIL deals, where third-party brands and businesses are using the Influencer exchange to engage athletes for NIL opportunities. Stakeholders on campus operationally are using Hub for your day-to-day. You're using GM for rev share management. All of that data can be consolidated into one view. As we look into the future, we have other tools that we may be able to integrate with as well. So our inventory management solution can actually calculate the wholesale and retail value of the gear that student athletes are receiving. Our compliance solution houses information about who's on a partial or full scholarship and what that tuition value is. Your ability to calculate and communicate the total package of benefits that a student athlete would receive by joining your athletic department is a competitive differentiator for recruitment and retention. But Teamworks is already thinking about the future, and that brings us to the next point we want to discuss and what we're hearing from you, and that is you need a data-driven athlete valuation tool. And I am super excited to talk about the acquisition of Zelus. This is really unlike any acquisition that we've done in the past. Very literally, Zelus is the world leader in sports data analytics. The strategic advantage that they've provided to elite athletic organizations and leagues spans the globe, from the English Premier League to the NFL, NHL, MLB, MLS, and the list goes on. As part of the acquisition, their entire team of over 70 PhD level sports scientists will be joining the Teamworks family to help us forge the next frontier of how front offices and college athletic sports leaders make decisions in order to win. The initial focus for Teamworks in the context of this webinar and for this audience is roster optimization in the collegiate space. When I talk about roster optimization, we're talking about advanced performance-based player valuation, as well as projecting future performance. I want to provide a specific example of how Zelus is working with NFL teams that I think will help crystallize some of the things that we're going to be bringing to the collegiate space in the very near future. A few years ago, in preparing for the upcoming NFL draft, one of Zelus's clients clearly needed a wide receiver. And so Zelus ingested hundreds of hours of video of all of the receivers in the draft class to do more detailed analysis. There was one wide receiver in particular that had slid down the draft board because of speed and injury concerns. What Zelus did is use the video and player tracking data to measure short, medium, and long range speed, separation on short, medium, and long range routes, change of direction, acceleration and deceleration, even run blocking to uncover real and tangible performance insights, but also give this team an accurate value projection. They ended up drafting this wide receiver with a 5th round pick, which turned out to be a steal. As a rookie, he went on to have over 100 catches and 1,400 yards, as well as make an appearance in the Pro Bowl. We're going to be bringing this sophistication to the college space when it comes to personnel evaluation and value projection, and that has never existed before. So the bet that we're making in 2025 and beyond is that simply relying on comparative financial data is going to be insufficient. It's going to be part of the equation. What are your neighbors paying for running backs? What are schools in your peer group paying for other position groups? But what we see in the future is that personnel and roster construction decisions are going to be driven by data-driven, performance-based valuations of what a player is going to mean for your team in your scheme for the upcoming season. And Zelus delivers that with real performance insights and more accurate analysis of a player's abilities and potential. Zelus Analytics provides world-class data and a clear competitive advantage. It helps you make better roster decisions, increase ROI on player selection, reduce the margin of error, and ultimately improve team performance. We've talked about the pieces. Now let's talk about how they fit together. At the very top, you have what I'll refer to as the stakeholder layer. And these are the groups that we talked about earlier. You have an NIL group, which is collectives, brands, and businesses. You have the school level stakeholders, but each of you needs a purpose-built solution in the solution layer. And so that includes in the NIL group, influencer and the influencer exchange. For school level users, it includes Teamworks GM and Hub. But while it is integrated across the entire solution layer, this creates a simple, familiar interface for student athletes that eliminates self-reporting. All activity that happens within this system is automatically reported and captured for ease of reporting. This also streamlines tax preparation for the student athlete. If I'm receiving all of my funds through Teamworks Wallet, I get one 1099 at the end of the year, one document. Finally, external connectivity is critical. All of the functions that we've described today can live within one technology ecosystem on your campus powered by Teamworks, but also easily connect out to third parties, including the NCAA NIL Assist platform. And that integration is live today. There's over 150 schools that are automatically and anonymously syncing their data to the NCAA dashboard on a daily basis with no manual uploads or intervention. We also are having ongoing conversations with conference level leaders today who may in the future urge or even require schools to disclose revenue share distributions at the conference level. We can easily accommodate that. There's also been discussions specifically about a third-party clearinghouse, and if that clearinghouse is not Teamworks, we're going to be able to easily export that data for auditing and enforcement based on upcoming legislation and new rules. Yes, we are entering a new frontier. There is no doubt about that. But together, we can create clarity. Clarity can be found in a comprehensive solution for managing total athlete earnings in Teamworks General Manager, a secure and reliable mechanism for payments in Teamworks Wallet, and a unified ecosystem that empowers all stakeholders. And this entire framework can also simplify and empower your student athletes. Teamworks Wallet is already launched with resounding success. Teamworks General Manager will be rolling out in the coming months. And we've been working with schools on a daily basis over the last several months to engage with them of how we can support their programs. And we want to have the same conversation with you to help provide the clarity that you are looking for. We look forward to building this future together with each and every one of you. And I want to thank you for joining our webinar